played yet. So we're gonna move on
Yeah,
to
my score is pretty up there.
yeah.
Oh,
Actually,
I didn't even look at the score
I
for
have
it. I'm
it
way behind.
somewhere. But yeah, we're gonna move
I think
on
it's like
to
88 last time I checked.
an update to our high score Olympics. During the break, Final Fantasy 16 came out, and yeah, so we're gonna take a peek into exactly where that is. Boop, 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 got that. Okay, so just taking a look. Let's see. I had it updated as of what? I had it of. Oh, so I'm like a little out of date. I'm like 2 weeks behind. So maybe I doubt the scores have shifted all that much. But
I just
as
pulled it up. So the Metacritic on FF16 is 87 at the
it went
moment.
down one, so I had 88. So 87, that's still pretty good. I mean, that's a very good game. I mean,
Yeah.
I feel like when it comes to Metacritic, as long as it's in like 80s and above, that's like great. Once it gets into 70s, it's just like still pretty good, but not like amazing, amazing.
Yeah, it's got a strong user score too, 8.3. So people are liking it.
No.
That's good.
So
Yeah.
what games does that leave Gamer? So he's got 16, Rebirth is pushed back. He's got Diablo 4. Baldur's Gate, I think they did announce that game's actually coming out now this year.
Oh,
The
did
Yeah,
they?
this,
Yeah, so Baldur's Gate will definitely be out, it sounds like. And ooh, I don't remember. Armored Core, I feel like is slated for this year as well. So I'm thinking
I
he's
would
going to
think
end the
so.
year with just one game missing.
And I'm potentially missing two right now
Two, so
because Kerbal Space Program 2 is still in early access.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to
and your
see.
Suicide Squad is
Suicide
gone.
Squad.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Suicide Squad is out, and they don't even have a review or anything for Kerbal 2 yet, so I might lose this by default.
I'm
We'll
in trouble.
see.
I'm in trouble as well, man. I mean, I haven't heard anything about Hades 2 or Hollow Knight since they got announced, so it's like,
Hollow Knight's, 'cause it was Silk Song, right?
yeah.
No, yeah, Silk Song. I thought I heard something about that recently. It was still slated for this year.
Mm,
Hades 2, I haven't heard anything from in a while, but I'm pretty sure they said this year. I don't know.
mm.
We'll see. I'm actually now I'm hoping that they both get pushed off to like 2025, so I can
I
I'll
hate
have a chance again.
I hate to say it. I actually think Gamer is the one who's looking like he might be able to pull it through because if 16 holds up and Diablo 4 holds up, that's better than my Legacy, my Hogwarts. And if I lose Hades and Hollow Knight, he definitely has it anyways. So
Well, you got Starfield right there, so it's kind of like
Starfield,
that's been kind of like up in the air.
I'm predicting in the 80s for Starfield. Honestly, I'm predicting like low
that's what
80s.
I'm
Ooh,
thinking too. I'm thinking because just
Eh,
because their games are always so buggy, and I think
I
bugs.
think too the expectations on this are just blown out of the water. Like people know it has to be some huge game for Xbox. I mean Bethesda, even for all of its shortcomings of other games, I mean Bethesda does make pretty classic games, so they are, I think, really hinging on this being some major release like 90s across the board, and I just don't think it's going to happen. I think this is going to be a fun game, Skyrim in space, but it's not going to be the revolutionary greatest RPG of all time, which I still can't believe that Microsoft said that. This is the most important RPG ever made. Like,
Yeah,
they set themselves up right there to, I think, have some unrealistic expectations.
it would have to do. It would have to be big because I remember. I mean, you guys probably do as well. But like when Skyrim came out, man, that game was like huge. Like I remember everybody was talking about Skyrim, and maybe times are different, but like I remember, and Skyrim even to this day, like it gets announced on a new console like every other day. So it's
Yeah.
like,
I mean, no matter how you look
Skyrim,
at it, if you play it, you're gonna get sucked into it. It's just really
yeah.
well done.
mm-hmm,
I think Skyrim, though, I mean, right, it was a different time. I don't think Bethesda had quite the history they have now with some super buggy releases. And at the time, Skyrim was this fairly innovative, expansive RPG that you hadn't had many things quite like it yet. Unless they do something really crazy here with Starfield that we're not anticipating, I feel like it's going to feel like just an iteration of what they've done in the past. But maybe I'll be wrong. I'll tell you, I think it really reset my expectations when they either is in a trailer or they said it where you don't get to just fly off the planet like a No Man's Sky style. It's you're on the planet, you load, and then you're in space. And not that, that's a bad decision. I know there's limitations to it, but something about that just really kind of checked my expectations that this is not going to be the limitless, expansive, universe-wide RPG they're kind of selling it out to be. So,
well, also something else recently that Todd Howard said, but they said apparently there's like close to 1,000 planets you can go to, but apparently, apparently they've also said there's only like, I don't know, a percentage or handful of those that are actually like inhabited by like human life and stuff. So
he said
like
a bunch
No
of
Man's
them are gonna
Sky.
have like nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna be like the first No Man's Sky with a little more curated content on it. And I mean, No Man's Sky people love now, but
it
it's
took them
gone
years
through a lot.
They had to do some things to that game.
And we still don't quite know, like, these planets, so we know we don't land ourselves, but like, if I land, can I go all the way around the planet, or can I only zoom in? Can I only fly into like 4 locations on the planet?
That's a good point. I didn't think about it. I would probably guess that that you just
like there's like
land at predefined hub
sections,
areas.
which that would be
I
more
don't know.
similar to Outer Worlds. I think did something similar to that, where like you weren't on the whole planet. You just, here's a town in this planet. You know what I mean?
Oh boy.
And I'll tell you, I mentioned this last. I know we're way off the Final Fantasy talk, but
Oh shoot!
they haven't even like talked about like alien races very much, which feels really odd for a game like this.
There's
I don't know,
aliens,
so-
but they're non-humanoid. Everything's all
Yeah, which I think that's really disappointing. Something that would add, I think, a lot of character to this game, make it a little more unique and interesting. And so far, it's just fighting raiders and like robots, I think, or something like. I don't know. I'm worried there's gonna be a little bit of blandness to this game. Not that you can't love a little bit of blandness and still enjoy what the whole package is, but I'm not expecting this to be
It's
a
like,
10 out of 10 by any means.
It's like back in the day when they announced Andromeda Mass Effect, and me and you were like, wouldn't that be really cool if the main character was like a Turian or something? Like I remember that talk where we were like, don't let us play as human, and we ended up playing as basic Rider,
really weird looking humans.
the Rider twins or whatever they were called.
Anyway, though, Final Fantasy is looking good. Metal, I know you have like the Super Fantasy Collector's Edition, don't you?
Yeah, I do.
What's in that again? I'm just curious.
It's a massive statue, a couple of banners, and a steel book. And this is just off the top of my head.
You don't deserve it. You haven't even played it.
I don't deserve it. 2 games came out within like, within a small amount of time. 3 games actually
You gotta have no
I
life.
have.
Just no
Yeah,
life.
you also have a little tiny human that I think slows things down for you a little bit.
Human.
Question for
Final
you
Fantasy.
before you get too far into it. I know we've talked a little bit about some of the, not discourse about the game, but people are claiming this is not a true Final Fantasy game due to lack of RPG elements and party systems, etc. Has that turned you off at all, Metal? Because I know you're a fairly diehard Final Fantasy guy back to a lot of the original games. So does hearing that worry you? Or are you pretty open to that concept? Or what are your thoughts?
I'm usually pretty open to that kind of stuff. I mean, I had my fair share of old school Final Fantasy games, and I really enjoy the turn-based type of style. But at the end of the day, it's like, if they're trying something different with the series, I'm okay with that. As long as the story's really good and a lot of the stuff doesn't veer too far from what they normally go through. Like that, what do they call them? Eidolons again?
No,
this
icons.
The
Like-
icons.
Icons? Oh god, they always name them something just different.
Sure.
Whenever we, they talk about guardian forces or whatever, as long as it's all within like that kind of like the same shtick, I'm okay with it.
Man, in the game, those icons are so freaking cool. Like
I bet they are.
they're awesome. Like it's literally like just kaiju bonanza.
Kaiju awesome.
It's like kaiju Dragon Ball.
Yeah. But yeah,
That is
to
a
answer-
conversation. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, but to answer your question, no, it's not going to sway me. Like, I'm always open to seeing what the developers have because, I mean, they cannot pull a horrible game.
Just imagine
this is a huge title for them to be doing, risky stuff. But
Right.
you know, if they're willing to do a little bit of risky stuff, then sure.
Well, it sounds like it's almost not risky. All of the changes they've made, I think, were made to be more consumer mass appeal friendly. Like I think that was one of the arguments by
Really?
What's the director's name?
Yoshi P?
Yeah. He said he went to action based combat because he thought more people were going to like that. And the younger generation is not going to appreciate turn-based, which I don't agree with.
I believe,
but it's also paid off.
I believe one of the main game developers was a guy who, like, worked on Devil May Cry, though.
Yeah, they brought in the Devil May Cry. I don't know if it was his director, or creator, or whatever.
Well, that's why it feels so like hack and slashy, is because that guy was just like, I want to make Final Fantasy, but Devil May Cry. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's a topic, not for now, for the sake of time, but I think we should revisit is when a franchise decides to take a completely different direction with the genre that it's used to, does that impact the fact that it's part of that franchise anymore? Like a lot of people are arguing this is not a Final Fantasy game, or a lot of people are arguing the new Zelda game is not a true Zelda game. And, you know, I don't think those are fully valid points, but I'd be curious to kind of get your take on what makes a game the game, right? What makes a Final Fantasy game Final Fantasy? Is it the gameplay? Is it the story? What makes a Zelda game?
Is it just hearing?
Well,
maybe that's all it is. Maybe it's a culmination of nostalgia. Maybe it has to have a certain narrative. Maybe it has to have a party system. I don't know. So as of right now,
do you think it's even fair to, like, you know, for lack of argument, for the Final Fantasy VII, like Dirge of Cerberus? I mean, that game was first person or third person shooter. But you know, that was completely different, and it's within the seven franchise, which is
game.
I know it's not a mainline Final Fantasy game, and I think that's your argument there.
Right. And once again, it's a very, I mean, it's a broad topic, and obviously there probably is no real answer here. It's very much subjective on how you feel about the franchise, but I'd be curious to get your opinions on it. Like if we're thinking like mainline entries for a franchise, what's the core of that? Or what should be the core? If there should be a core.
It's like people that are like, oh, Dragon Ball GT is not Dragon Ball. Get out of here. It's like, well, I mean, it has those characters. I mean,
yeah, and some people don't like Super.
It was made by Toriyama.
So either way, another time. I won't keep us any more on that.
Yeah. I would just say, imagine Game of Thrones hack and slash with Final Fantasy characters. That's the best thing I could think of. It's the storyline is the theming is very Game of Thronesy, the gameplay is very hack and slashy, and then there's Final Fantasy stuff all over the place.
To me, that just sounds fun.
It is just fun, but no, some people don't seem to think that way.